Yeah, I got you. Of course. Yep. Yes. Kind of push towards the back, kind of. Yep.
Guys, just so you know, we're also live streaming this, so try to just make sure you're not in the way of the camera as well. Okay? Thank you guys so much for your cooperation. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I just don't want to. Yeah. Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I know the worst. For those who do not know me, I am Pastor Paul Wheeler of Trinity Lutheran Church. Just wanted to share a very brief word, okay? And actually, a lot of these words are Mason's words. Okay. Let me begin then with a verse from Scripture from the Bible, okay? It has a purpose, it has a point. St. Paul wrote to the Philippians, "Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to everyone. The Lord is near." You may be wondering why I'm using those words. They don't seem to fit maybe this gathering of folks on this day, except they are the words and the verse of Mason's confirmation, his confirmation verse. When folks were confirmed at Trinity Lutheran Church, and Turner knows this, and there's a whole bunch of other people who know this, they have to compose an essay on faith. Remember that, folks, right? What their faith means to them, and to share a personal experience. This is in part what Mason shared in 2011 when he was about 13, 14 years old. These are the words that have stayed with me since that day, and I've used in different occasions throughout time. And I want to share these words with you. I believe this verse tells us to celebrate the Lord. We are to celebrate that the Lord is always around us, that his gentleness is always around and within us. The verse reminds us that the Lord's strength is always with us through good times and through difficult times. My faith has taught me to try and celebrate every day the life God has given me. When I was 12 years old, I flew to Alaska by myself. It took 4 planes and 22 hours of traveling. In Alaska, I lived and worked with my father for 2 months on a boat. During this experience, There were fun times and not so fun times. You can almost hear Mason saying this, right? I always tried to celebrate this experience knowing that God was with me. Mason's words, in fun times and not so fun times, in good times and in difficult times, the young and old among us, all of us gathered together, know that gentleness, the gentleness that Mason knew in the life he lived and he loved and he shared with all of us. Today and all days, embrace each other and be kind and be gentle to one another in your sorrow and in your sadness. Love each other. Hold each other close. In doing so, you honor Mason as you remember him so well this day. Amen. And I believe Peter is next, who would.
I'm a Catholic and I'm seen this Lutheran minister too many times. I'll be pretty brief because most of you know me that I don't talk a lot. I'm the insurance guy that wrote the boats. Just to be serious for a few minutes, the old people here know about how things happen. And they usually give up asking why. And over my lifetime, I've gone through a lot of tragedies, and I've always asked why, and never get an answer. Though I remember when I was, I think, 9 years old, and I went to my mother and said, "Why?" And she said, "Because I told you so." And that stuck with me the rest of my life. But I want to talk about some real joys that Mason and the family have taken. And I want to thank Dagny for giving me two of the greatest grandsons a person could have. And one of them's there smiling at me. I'll pay you later. The first thing that when Dagny called me, she said what happened, and it was like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm used to those calls because nothing ever happens in the daytime. It always happens at night. And so I just laid there and started thinking of all the things that I've been through. And when they lived in Seattle, it was Mason's first basketball game. I can't remember the age, but it was where you take 10 or 12 steps and dribble the ball once, take 10 or 12 steps, dribble the ball once. And there was this one kid that realized that he could get the ball a lot easier if he just knocked the kid down. Well, after the 10th foul, Grandpa got a little uptight. He said something. I think he said something 2 or 3 times. And he spent the second half in the car waiting for the game to get over. So from there on out, every game I went to, hockey, lacrosse, I was always at one end of the place and all the people were at the other, so that I didn't get kicked out of the game again. And one of these times, I can't remember which rink it was at, but I was watching Mason, and he was defenseman. And he said, "Mason, you're too tight. You're too tight. The guy's going to go around you." I'm watching him. I said, "You're in too bright. Get in. Get out. Get out." All of a sudden, he throws that hip check that everybody saws in the newspaper. This kid goes flying a mile. Mason grabs a puck, throws it to his winger. The winger didn't score, but it was a rebound shot, and the other guy scored for his team. And Mason turned around and looked at me because he probably heard me say something through the glass. And he smiled, and all you could see these mouthpiece. Big smile and mouthpiece. And he looks at me, and I saw the mouthpiece, so I do this. And we laughed. And that picture of him throwing the hep duck showed up in the paper, or one of them showed up in the newspaper sometime. And I still have a copy of that, and I think that's the greatest thing I can remember of him playing hockey. And the minister made the comment about his four plane rides to Alaska. Well, two of those, I met one of them and made sure he got on the right plane. And then I was on the phone making sure he made the fourth leg of the flight. I worried as much as his dad did in getting up there. But they had a great time. And the season had come to an end, but Mason and his dad were going to do a little bonding. So there's a small season at the end called chum salmon that not a lot of people stay for it, but it's a pretty low key. They go up and down the river, catch a few fish. And I get this call, and it's from Adam, and he said, "Got a problem." And I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "Well, you know, the boat we have can run in 6 inches of water when we're going full speed. It's a twin jet boat. But it won't go in 6 inches of water once it stops." And I said, "Yeah, well, wait for the tide. There's a 20-foot tide up in Alaska there." He said, "I've waited 2 tides. It's going down." And I said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And he said, "No, it's what you're going to do. I can't do anything." I said, "Well, how's Mason doing?" "Oh, he's fine." "How much fish do you have aboard?" "Oh, about 5,000-6,000 pounds." I said, "You know where you are?" And he said, "Yeah, out on the west side." "You know what's over there?" And he said, "What?" I said, "Bears." He said, "Oh, yeah." So you and Mason get the fish, throw them over the side, and take them as far from the boat as you can do it. Now remember, the tide's out. They're sloshing around up to their knees. This fish to get away from the boat. So, and the bears came that night. I didn't worry because they had a flare gun, so I figured that would be great. And if anything happened, they could shoot the flare at the bears. So Mason told me, he said, the bears were walking around the boat all night long. We didn't sleep very well. And I said, "Well, you don't worry, the flare gun." And he said, "Dad shot the flares off on the 4th of July. We didn't have any flare." I'm going, "Oh my." So I can understand his concern. But they had a great time. We got the boat off the beach, and got in, and they put it away. So that story has been around for a long time, and it's been a great one. And they did.
And they ran out of chewing tobacco, too. You know?
Yeah.
Game over then.
I was trying to keep it clean because the toilet plugged up too. The last thing I'll talk about is, Mason got his degree and he was on the tankers. The first thing he did was the Mississippi River, which was an experience in itself. But the second one was the tankers to Alaska and back, and he'd stop in Anacortes, and then sometimes they'd go down to Richmond, Virginia, and or Richmond, California. And he called me one time. He said, they called me Papa. He said, "Papa." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm steering the boat underneath the Golden Gate Bridge." And I said, "You are?" He said, "Yeah." "Well, they tell me I am." I think there's an automatic pilot, though. But I'm sitting in the chair. I said, "That's great." And I said, "What else are you doing?" He said, "I'm learning how to needle gun." And the fishermen here will know what needle gun is. It's the little thing you vibrate the rust off the boat. He said, "I'm an expert at it now. But this is a union boat, so We have 5 coffee breaks, 2 lunches, and I only work 8 hours a day. But he spent the rest of the time up in the bridge, and they loved him. Who couldn't? He was a great kid. And thank you for all coming.
All right, unfortunately, I don't know who is next in line, so if you want to just come up and say your words, feel free.
I'll start by saying thank God he switched to hockey and got out of basketball. This is going to be tough, so bear with me, guys. Mason was like family to me. It'll be tough to elaborate how I feel about Mason after a 20-year friendship in a couple minutes. But as everyone here knows, his smile was the one that everyone in the room saw, but his laugh was everyone heard. He was always very easy to hang out with, always full of life, always go with the flow in the life of the party. Everyone who was privileged enough to have his friendship valued his friendship very much. Our friendship began when we ended up on the same Little League baseball team when we were about 10, which led to a lot of memories, all-star teams with Kobe and Will, my dad coached. And that connection there formed a life full of memories that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. We helped each other with everything, house projects, errands, driving around town looking at houses that we love like old people, admiring people's grasses. And one thing that he got from Adam was his go big mentality. And I would always drag him along for something that I didn't really want to buy, but he was going to force me to. Or something that I wanted to buy and he was going to make me get the biggest, best one. Out of all the moments that we had, I don't know why this one stuck with me most. It was a cold winter day. He came home really early. I came home to my house to check on a project I was supposed to be doing. We did absolutely nothing. We sat on my couch, ordered pizza, watched The Godfathers all in one day. Jill came home at about 3 o'clock, 3:30. We were about 6 hours in on going on to the third movie. It was dark. The surround sound was as loud as it could be. But that's the type of friendship we had. We could either be going on a big trip, weekend away, vacations, bachelor parties, or we could be doing absolutely nothing and still enjoy each other's company. He greatly impacted this world with his cheerfulness and great energy. His legacy of love, laughter, and friendship will never fade. I love you, brother.
I know he's laughing at me right now because I would literally never do this. I wanted to start off by saying thank you all for showing your love for Mason. I'm sorry this may be long, but this is the least he deserves. It's the second worst day of my life, and it's hard to be up here doing this, but I know he'll give me the strength, just like he always does. A letter to my husband. I struggle to find the words to say because none of us should be here today without you. There are no amount of words that truly capture what you meant to me and the love we had for each other. You told me we were soulmates from day one and made sure it was one of the last things you said to me before leaving the house that night other than be home in 10, my love. Someone once told me that in every photo it looks like we have an inside joke that no one else is in on. Within the first few days, we had our entire wedding planned. We had the venue picked out and practiced our first dance. We even had our future kids' names planned out too. All of our friends made bets on how soon we would get married. You told me that you manifested me, and everyone can confirm. That by how you would always talk about the girl that works at Stormy Spa for 5 months straight. And the truth is, I manifested you too. We are meant to be. I remember the first night we met, I went to Mark and Stormy's after work. You shook my hand, I laughed, and said you can hug me. That's the kind of gentleman you are. Which makes me think of the time I told you I liked cows, and next thing I know, you were bringing me to a friend's farm. We were inseparable from the start. We even shared the same porta potty once or twice. I quickly became a part of your family and found a home in them. The friend group took me in with open arms, and it will remain that way forever. But don't worry, they are all saying that I'm stuck with them, just like you did, from day one. We moved so fast, but it was so right. Our souls recognized each other, and I'll never regret it. We said I love you 3 weeks after our first date, and you asked me to officially move in on a Christmas ornament while decorating the tree a few months later. You are truly one of a kind. There are a few things I want to thank you for. Thank you for your endless Thank you for the endless car karaoke scream sessions, especially Taylor Swift. Yes, you knew all the words. Thank you for loving all the same shows as me, especially Vampire Diaries. Thank you for watching Game of Thrones with me 3 times, even though I've seen it 100 times before. Thank you for learning the entire Wicked soundtrack and singing it at the top of our lungs and watching it twice with the wand. Thank you for making the grocery store fun. Thank you for always asking me about my day and my books. Thank you for calling me beautiful every chance you got. Thank you for always making me laugh. Thank you for communicating with me and never once getting into a disagreement. Thank you for leaving me with nothing but amazing, happy memories. Thank you for cooking me dinner after my long days at work, especially on our last Valentine's Day. Just 2 weeks ago, you were cooking us dinner in our demolished home before the renovations were about to begin while singing some made-up Italian song that I will never forget. When we finished, we cleaned up and threw up the last of our kitchenware. Excited for our next chapter. Thank you for knowing what I needed when I didn't. You would always want to do the things I loved because you wanted to love them too. This time last year, we snorkeled in Aruba. We were so sunburnt, we slept until 8:30 p.m. and woke up laughing that we missed dinner. A year ago yesterday, we locked our love in Curacao. A year ago today, we spent the day together playing mermaids in the beating sun on a private island in Haiti. I know I already told you this, but a core memory that stands out to me is just a month ago we were leaving the Disney fireworks for the 3rd time, and a huge crowd of people in front of the castle singing and dancing to Happily Ever After. A few days later, when we got back to the hotel after a few tequila sodas, with a lime of course, you told me to have my nails done for the rest of the year, and I knew exactly why. Thank you for being a kid with me the whole week while we were there, and giving me my Disney princess fairy tale. Little me is so happy. Thank you for waking up at 6 a.m. 3 times to get to Galaxy's Edge so we could live out our Star Wars dreams together. I will miss your infectious smile. I will miss your one-of-a-kind laugh and laughing with you. I will miss that little scream you do when you're excited, the creases by your eyes. I will miss your patience and kindness. I will miss you with my morning coffee, and I'll always save you a cup. I will miss you kissing my forehead and cuddling me on the couch and saying I want to stay here forever. You were literally perfect, and there will never be another person like you. You were the brightest light in this world, and we didn't deserve you. I can't wait until I can see you again, my love. I find comfort in knowing that some people never get to experience this type of love in an entire lifetime, and we were lucky enough to share it with each other in that time we had. I'll feel you when the sun shines on my face. I will see you when it sparkles on the water. I will hear you in the autumn wind. I will hold your hand every time a sunset paints the sky. I'll think of you when I look at the moon and stars. I'll see you in my dreams and in every dimension in this life and the next. You told me I was your angel, and now you are mine. I was supposed to spend the rest of my life with you, and then I realized you spent the rest of your life with me. A few weeks ago, I read you a quote from my book. I would have waited 500 more years for you, 1,000 years, and if this was all the time we were allowed to have, the wait was worth it. And finally, the last quote you shared with me. And if I could live this life again, I would repeat every mistake so long as it leads me back to you. We've been saying this since we finished watching Lost, so it's only fair that I end this with, I'll see you in another life, brother, Desmond Hume. I will mourn you in the life we had planned until the day I get to kiss you again. Thank you for saving me in every way a person can be saved. I love you more than life itself. Love your wife.
When I think about Mason, there's a ton that comes to mind. Things that no one can miss is his smile and his laugh. His smile could lighten up a room. His laugh, well, you could hear from 3 rooms away. It was the kind of laugh that you made you laugh, even if you didn't know what was funny. That's just who he was, full of life, full of energy, and always making the people around him feel good and wanted. But Mason wasn't just fun to be around. He was a guy you could always count on. It didn't matter the time of day or the kind of mischief we had gotten into the night before. If you needed him, he was there, no questions asked. That's just the kind of friend he was. One good memory with him was out on the ice. My brother was his coach, and one practice I came out with them. Now, Mason wasn't the biggest guy. He was probably pushing 5'6" on skates. But that never stopped him from going after what he wanted. And that day, what he wanted was either to hit me into the boards as hard as he can, steal the puck, or at least slash me on the way by, just to know that just to remind me he was still there. And that was Mason in a nutshell. No words, no matter the odds, no matter the challenge. He showed up with heart, determination, and a little bit of mischief, and he made sure you felt his presence. And it wasn't just me. Mason was Mason was amazing with my family. He wasn't just my best friend. He became a part of all of our lives. There's a great story of one early morning when my dad called me and he needed help with his hitch. He needed help putting it on. Next thing you know, there was rust in both of our faces. And it didn't matter how miserable we were from the night before, but we were there laughing and tightening every bolt. Didn't matter what we got into. Anytime my family got together, one of the first names that they always asked was, where was Mason? That says everything about the kind of person he was. He had a way of making people feel special and always made everyone feel like family. One thing I promised to Mason is to speak your name as much as possible and remember all the late night hangouts and our trio group with me, Mason, Alexi. At every party, we found ourselves talking in the corner or hanging out all night laughing. One last share I have with everyone is I was with him Thursday night. Our last interaction walking to the car was dapping each other up. He said, love you. I said, love you, buddy. So I love you, buddy, and I miss you too. And then just from the Evich family, they just wanted to thank everyone for coming out and coming. They really appreciate it from Dagny, and for everyone in the GoFundMe. And for their mic is open for a few more speeches if anyone else would like to say something.
This is for you, Dave. Wow. I'm just so overwhelmed. You guys, I am Dagny's West Coast family. I was there when Dagny married Adam. I was there when Mason was born. I was pregnant, and our boys were inseparable. So I look at all you guys, if you knew all this amount of people are in the West Coast today grieving. Mason touched, in the 7 years he lived there, he touched everyone's life there. And I got a call last night, and they were doing something in Alaska. There was numbers of people. He just was contagious. My husband always says he was the little kid. He was like, Leif, what are you using? Is that a hammer? What is that saw? He was helping, and just always with the big guys. And we would come to visit Dagny, and he's like, so always smiling, and always had lots of you friends around, and you guys were all so kind when we came to visit them. And you would welcome us, take us out to eat with you young guys. And I just could see the love. Mason was surrounded by people. My mom used to always tell me, surround yourself with who you want to be. And you guys all just, this is touching. And from the West Coast to the East, we just thank you all for being here for the second half of Mason's life. And I see that he was loved. And you guys have really honored him today. And just take care of our people when we go back. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Lexi, that was a beautiful kid. My name's Tom Sprague. Mason was my godson. Had to make notes because I knew I was going to break down. Being his godson was the greatest thing, greatest title I've ever had. Thank you, Dagny. Thank you, Adam. I didn't really know what it meant to be a godfather to somebody at the time. Adam and I were kids. We were best friends since about the age of 5. So if either of us had a kid, the first one would obviously be, would be the godfather. So it's a logical choice. But when Mason got to be the age where he could put a few words together, I quickly realized how cool it was to be his godfather, because I realized how cool he was. He was only, I don't know, how old are you when you talk, 2 or 3 years old? I remember. All right. I was gone a lot. I lived out of town, so I would see Adam and Dagny and Mason here and there. But I remember the first time or not the first time, but I came back to the house and I walked in unannounced, and Adam and Mason were sitting on the couch, like they probably did a lot. And Mason was, I don't know, 2 and change or something like that. And I walked in, and I hadn't seen him in months. I hadn't seen either one of them in months. And I walked in the door, and I knew I was going to balk at this one, but I walked in the door, and Mason, his face lit up, and he said, with that smile and those squinty smile eyes, he says, and he's the exact same guy today that he was then, but I walked in the door, and this little kid said, "What's up, buddy? Have a seat." Like, he was so happy to see me. And I knew right then that I had the greatest gift, being this kid's godfather. It was just the greatest thing. Adam and I had a connection at a young age, 5 years old. Adam was the cool guy. Everyone liked Adam. I was a shy guy, had no friends, but Adam and I had a connection through hockey, whatever. And that was always real special to me. And I knew right away that Mason and I had the same connection as when he was a young child. He was so full of personality, had zero social anxiety whatsoever at a young age, full of questions. And he was the same happy kid when he grew up. He was the same exact kid that was sitting on that couch. All you guys know that kid. He was just so happy all the time, so happy to see you. And your relationship with him was so important to him. You could always tell. When his dad passed a few years back, I came out here, and it was tough for me. But when I got here, like Kim was saying, I was hanging out with him and his crew of buddies, and it was like I was distraught, devastated how you guys are now, and I got out here and I got to hang out with him and his buddies, and it was so awesome to see, because these kids loved him so much. And just being around that for that week or whatever it was that I was here, and I could just see in these guys' eyes and the way they spoke to each other, it was like, I thought, Adam he's got to be proud of this, because that's how Adam and I were. And he had a whole crew of buddies that were the exact same way, and it made everything so much better for me. And I was so proud to see the impact that that little kid on the couch made in his life with the people that were lucky enough to be in his life. And by looking out here right now, I expected nothing less than this for what that kid brought into this world. Mason was out where I live, north of Seattle there, where Dagny and Adam lived. And he came into my restaurant and hung out for a few days. And it was only a few days, maybe a few hours. And when I told my staff before I came out here what happened, I couldn't believe the devastation in the kids that worked there that they had when they heard about Mason. Just from him sitting in the restaurant for a few hours a day, they were absolutely devastated. And in the very short time that they had with Mason, he made that big of an impact. And we all also only had Mason for a short amount of time. But we're always going to remember him. We're always going to remember that squinty-eyed smile, that laugh, and most importantly, we're going to remember the way he made you feel when you were around him. Every single time, you'll remember the way he made you feel. And we have each other right now to mourn Mason. But when we leave here and we go home and we're by ourselves, that's when it's really going to get difficult. And we just have to think, what would Mason say to you if he was there with you? If he could see you, and he can, what would he say to you? I know what he would say to me, and I think of it. I've been thinking of it all week when I'm really down. I know what he would say to me. Come on, man. Come on, man. You got to go on. Come on. I just hear his voice. And so when you kids go home tonight, and I know what you're going through, just think of what he would say to you. It'll make you feel better for a little bit. But I really appreciate this whole community here, all of you guys, all of his friends and the people that know his family. I was upset when Dagny and Adam left 30 years ago. What was it? A long time ago? I was not happy, Dagny. Took my buddy, God kid. But when I came out for Adams, I just saw everybody. I got to know everybody here, and I saw this community, and there is no better place that they could ever be, with all of you here to support them. And I'm so happy you guys are all here for Dagny and Turner. And I really appreciate, and it makes me feel good that so many people loved Mason the way that I did. Thank you.
Thank you. The microphone is still open if anyone wants to share some words. And if we change our mind throughout the day, please just come up to me and let me know. Oh, I thought I saw someone come in. I'm sorry.